Action.
What's your cold brew?
Who do we've got Tara, and me.
Yes.
Do we have anybody else?
Julio.
Julio.
Just kidding.
Julio.
Oh.
Julio's not on. Okay. Oh, then we got Andrew. All right, great.
Everybody's here.
Everybody's here. Fantastic. Wonderful. Is Tina coming?
I was walking her down off the ledge yesterday.
Okay, so a couple things that I wanted to talk about today. Andrew's going to lead the training, and he's going to talk about. We're going to talk again about specific scenarios in the scripting if you guys want to do that. If there is a specific part of the scripting that you want to go through, if you want to hear something out from me, that's cool as well. If there's particular objections that you wanted to talk through, that's fine too. So I first want to ask if there's anything specific that anybody wants to talk about before we get started with the scripting stuff. Tara, I know that there must be. We cannot hear you though.
No, I just unmuted.
Okay. Nothing? No objections? Nothing at all?
How do you create some urgency?
I don't want to take up the whole training.
No, go ahead. Tell me, is there something, is there one specific thing that you have in mind that you want to talk about?
No, not really. Not really. Nothing beyond the normal stuff.
What's the normal stuff?
Well, just the normal objections, like some that you can't overcome, like people aren't ready to move. It's a timing thing.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's a pretty tough one. But
Yeah, that thing's massive.
It's brief.
It's like the size of
There's like another
baseball.
one too.
Not Kevin Calderon.
He did.
Yeah.
It was driving me
Still
crazy
here.
yesterday.
How they didn't fry yet.
Should have bugs out.
Give them Muffy's. Take them.
No, Muffy's cold brew attracted.
They bred hamburgers.
Oh, great.
Mom and Dad up there getting ready to have some kids.
Oh my
Got
god.
it.
What a legend. Tell your friends.
good. So
I'd like to go through the new cash contract, but that's not the kind of thing for this meeting.
yeah, that's not for this meeting, but that's important. So okay. All right. So what about so Tara went on a cash appointment last night. I got a short update by email from her, but why don't you give us the Cliff Notes version of what you encountered in terms of difficulties getting him to sign up for cash, and then how you, I know you were just focused on cash because it was in Maryland, but whether or not how you might have been able to get a listing out of it if you were licensed there.
Oh yeah. Well, I was able to uncover more information. We had really good rapport. The house is not in bad shape, but based on the parameters that you all gave me to work within, he was not in a position to accept, the bottom part of the offer.
So what was the wholesale number?
The wholesale number was, I think, 150 to 160.
And what was the number that we would buy it at?
120.
Okay. Well, he owed 135.
125.
Okay. So we would have needed to sign it up at not much more than he owed.
Exactly, but his goal was to buy another place with, some down payment money based on the cash sale. He figured he would have enough.
Okay.
Got him to give me his bottom line, what's the lowest you'll go? And he said 195.
195.
Right.
What do you think the house would sell for on the market as is?
As is, I think the house could probably sell for the low 200s as is.
Okay.
No,
So,
we did net 195. We did talk about listing, but he's got other issues. He's currently in loan modification, so it's going to be tough for him to qualify for another mortgage.
okay, but that's
Already having
another,
troubles with this one.
that's like a whole nother, that's not something that you can troubleshoot for him.
No, but I've done mortgages before, and I did have a realistic conversation with him.
So, is he definitely going to sell?
Yeah, he wants to sell, but now it's a timing issue because I said, okay, you want to sell, where would you go? And he doesn't even really have a place picked out.
Does he have an agent?
No.
So do you think that's a listing that we would be able to get?
I think we could because I asked him about, do you have an agent? He said that he did when he bought the place. He liked the people that he worked with, but they're not in real estate anymore. So
Okay.
he doesn't have anybody in particular.
Okay, so did you discuss his working with us on that?
Of course.
Do you think that he will?
Yeah, I think there's a good likelihood that he will.
How did the meeting end?
Again, it's his readiness.
How did the meeting end?
Well, it ended with, let me talk to Kevin and Lloyd, because I took pictures. They might have different ideas than me. That bought me some more time, and I'm supposed to get back to him today.
Okay. All right, that's good. And what about, what is the biggest, if we were like, hey, we can't buy it, but we can list it for you and we think we can net you kind of at least what you're trying, your bottom line is, the 195.
Uh-huh.
What would stop him from saying, okay, let's do that now?
Moving.
Finding a place?
Yep.
Where is he going to go?
Well, he doesn't. We talked about renting for a period of time. That would do several things for him. It would help him to strengthen his credit so he could qualify for something else. And it would also allow him an opportunity to save more money if that's something that he wanted to do, if he didn't get what he wanted out of the house. And also to get to know a new area if he liked it well enough to buy. So, but he's obviously very reticent to do that. He wants to buy something, but,
Okay.
gotta come to terms with all that.
Okay. I got you. So if we had given him, we were like, okay, 195, here you go. Would he have taken it? Would he have signed?
Yeah, I think he would have signed if he could net 195.
So that to me is, presents an issue that we have to, think about that, right? So whenever we're in a meeting and we're like going after the listing and we're like getting tripped up with where you're going to go and all that, which is a legit question. But if you think he would have signed last night at 195, that means that he felt like he would have been in a position to figure it out, right? Where he was going to go and all that. So so that should be informative, for everybody as to like, if a lot of times people will be like, where am I going to go? Blah, 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 blah. But like, at the end of the day, if they get what they want, they'll figure it out. So how do you square those two things, Tara? It's like if you had signed him up at 195, he would have signed last night, but he's not ready to sign a listing agreement. Tell me how those things, like how do you get him to the point where he would sign a listing agreement if you do feel like he's ready to sign a cash agreement?
Well, with the listing agreement, if that had been, I didn't even have a contract with.
No, I'm not saying it's
But
not.
I would have gone for the listing, absolutely.
Do you think he would have signed up for a listing last night?
I'm about would have signed a listing agreement.
Okay. All right. Okay. That's good then. So then you'll upload the pictures. Maybe you already have.
No, I have yet to do that. Now, where do you want those? I've just been putting them in my own drive and sharing a link.
Okay. So we'll set up a folder. So talk to Muffy about that, and we'll put a folder in the direct prospects folder in Maryland, so I can take a look at them. So just
Okay.
shoot Muffy an email, and he'll show you.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Marco Aurelius, any issues, any thoughts, any stories, anything you want to share from this past week?
Just see which appointments I had. No, I think that kind of ties into what Tara was saying, how when people aren't really ready, and what I talked to you about before.
Yeah.
It's just like, if we just had a way where we could set up like an automatic drip that is personal, then just keeps us in the front of their minds, so when they are ready to sell, they automatically think of us, as opposed to, us just like calling them every once in a while and not getting them. I think it'd be better for them to have an email, something in their right in front of their faces.
Yeah, Mark and I were talking this morning. I think this makes a lot of sense. A lot of the people we meet, probably are eventually going to sell, at least in the foreseeable future, maybe 6 months or a year or 2 years. And so we kind of want to stay in front of them to some degree, sort of drip on them. Mark is going to put together an email. He's thinking of sending a monthly email out to all of his leads and prospects, just saying, hey, like September update, I sold this house and this house, or I got these 2 houses listed, or whatever, the market's doing this, just some kind of little snapshot of what might be going on that month for him, just so he's sort of staying in the forefront of these people's minds. So in 18 months, if Mark hasn't been able to get in touch with somebody, it's like he's basically probably has the same chance of getting it as like any other agent. But if he's sent an email, if they've gotten 18 emails from Mark since then, he's going to have a much better chance of being somebody that they call. So I know Tara's very good at follow up by phone, but I think what Mark is talking about makes a lot of sense, and it's probably a best practice for everybody. So that's something that Mark and I are going to work on the next week or two, and we'll certainly share that with the group, because I think it's a good practice. It's certainly going to help monetize some of these appointments that you go on that you've spent time building rapport on, where they probably are going to sell. It's going to help monetize some of those leads in the future, because you're certainly going to want, in 6 or 8 months when they are ready to sell, you're going to want the listing just as bad as you want it right now. Victoria, anything?
Not really. I feel like I just get a lot of people who aren't ready.
ready.
So yeah. And I've had a few people where they're getting investor offers that they say are like much higher than what we would offer.
Yeah, well, I would just tell them they're full of shit.
Okay.
Yeah, be like, okay, you should take that.
That's what I say. I'm
Yeah,
like, oh,
that
you should
sounds
really
like a
take that. That's what
fantastic
you
offer.
got.
Definitely sounds like horse shit, but that's cool. Did they, when people said that they got an offer that is like $100,000 higher, then you can say, oh, did they give it to you in writing?
Right.
Always ask, that's always my first follow-up question, because most of the time it's going to be like, no, oh, when are they going to give it to you in writing? But who is this person? Is it actually an investor, or is it your like neighbor's coworker?
Right.
Right? So, and be like, and what are they going to do about the closing costs? And is there any commission? And who's their title company? Like, they're going to be like,
I normally
Like
ask
verified
all of
funds and
those.
stuff.
yeah, verified funds, exactly. Like, basically be like, oh, so this offer isn't even really an offer that you've received. This is just like somebody
Them
told
saying
you something.
yeah.
Oh, well, that's worth exactly jack shit.
Right.
So I always do that and be like, there's a lot of people who, until you see it in writing, until they actually put earnest money down, I tend to think it's not really. I don't really consider that to be an offer, and that's pretty fair. So you don't have to be like combative about it, but. Victoria and I did a fantastic appointment last night with Sheila Shankleford in DC.
Nice lady.
Very nice lady. What did you think about that appointment? This was a cash appointment.
I think it was good. I couldn't quite tell at the end what her deal was.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised either way. I think
Yep.
if she took it or she didn't.
Yep.
I think a lot of it's going to depend on whoever her tax advisor is.
Whoever that clown
says
is. Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
Whatever he says. Because
So
like
she's
I
meeting
think
with her accountant on Wednesday and to get like his advice about selling this rental property. I don't know what exactly she plans to ask him. Like if it's a good deal, I don't know. But
she's asking him. She wanted to make after she paid off her other house, which she owed $96,000 on. She wanted to make $100,000 so she could put it into her retirement investments.
but that
and
was
we
with
would've
the
been-
financial advisor who
Yeah, but
she
I think
hasn't met with.
I think it was the tax guy to see what sort of taxes she'd be paying on the capital gains because she's putting it into retirement, or if she has to pay taxes when she takes it out. Like it's been, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's something about if it's a
Right.
Roth IRA or whatever.
So that's a tough one. That was tough. She was definitely going to talk to this turkey about the transaction. She wasn't going to sign up until she had done. So we're sort of a little bit beholden to whatever this clown says.
I was
But-
a little confused about one thing.
Yeah.
So her and I were like outside talking to the neighbor with this
Mhm.
super cute dog, and he was inside filling out the paperwork. And when we came in, you had just written the offer down, but there had been no like negotiation or discussion about the number. And when that happened, I felt like she was a little taken aback that there was no discussion about the number first.
Yeah. So we talked about it very briefly. I was like, Phil gave you a range on the phone.
Yeah, so that I remember
Yeah.
that conversation, but there was no like, oh, that like 170. I think it was 172 is not enough.
Yeah, so it is, I basically knew what I was going to have to offer her, and I was
Mhm.
going to be at the bottom of that range. So, I could have done that differently. I could have been like, this is what I can offer, and try to have more of a conversation about it.
That's I just didn't because I know I've seen you do videos where you did do that.
Yeah.
So that's confusing.
And I think I would have done that if I felt like she was going to, there was a possibility of her getting signed up on the spot.
Mm.
Because at this point it was sort of like she's negotiating like it.
Right.
She's
She's
not
going
be
to
able
talk to the
make
guy
a
who's going to tell her, no,
decision.
you need 185
Exactly.
or whatever.
So like
Gotcha.
if we start negotiating, then that number changes a little bit. Then we still have to renegotiate it again
Right.
after she talks to him. So I did it that way, and we'll see what she says. I sent her the pictures. I sent her a bunch of text messages and emails and stuff afterwards,
Mhm.
and she asked for the pictures that I took, so I sent her those, and we had good rapport. We're going to follow. She's meeting on Wednesday. I'll follow up on Wednesday. I agree with you. Probably 50-50. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
But I think she was, I think if she gets, the guy she meets with is sort of inclined, thinks it's a decent idea, I think she'll be inclined to do it with us. I think she liked us.
Yeah.
So,
I definitely. I mean, depending on how like educated this guy is, it's a better deal for her to sell it than try and bring it up to code to re-rent it. It's like it's totally like
yeah.
it
it's
needs
like-
stuff.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
she'd have to put down money.
Yeah, put a lot of money into
yeah.
it. Yeah. The rapport was very good.
Mm-hmm. She thought we were funny. Except for Kevin, I'm funnier.
She thought that I was both professional, hilarious, and also very knowledgeable. Right. That's
what you
what I
took from
that's
it.
what I took from it.
Did you introduce yourself as Keith?
No.
He did tell the Rocky story. I'm not even sure if that's a real
That's
story.
a real story.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a real story.
Way to go, Kevin.
So anyway, it was a good meeting. So that's a good example of a meeting where not going to get it signed up. I didn't get the feeling that she was had a lot of other investors she was talking to. So I was comfortable making an offer to her. If she was going to be talking to a bunch of other people, then I would have not given her an offer and tried to circle back with her after she was done with all those meetings. So I gave her the offer, tried to build as much rapport, and then tried to emphasize sort of like the deadline. So the offer expires this Friday. She's meeting with the accountant on Wednesday, try and sort of push for a decision. Not sure, not sure. I think it's probably 50-50. It's hard to say though. Anything else from that? So.
Just that she like kind of offhandedly complained about only having 5 days to make a decision a few times, but Kevin was like, I can't hear anything you're saying about that.
Yeah, it was like, oh.
Like literally would just not say anything back. Like would talk about something completely different afterwards.
Yeah, I was like, okay, like how much, like, what do you want, a year? Like, right. Yeah, anyway, so let's talk about, Terry, have anything that you encountered recently? I know you've been on vacation and everything, but anything that has come up that you want to talk about?
I don't know, just trying to get back in touch with people once I've met with them.
Mm-hmm.
To try to, I sent them a net sheet or I did something and then not having any luck getting a response back from them is frustrating.
I've had that a few times too, where like I'm literally like, hello, is anybody out there?
The fly.
It's like, we had a good rapport, I thought the meeting went well, and then nothing. It kind of goes.
Oh my God, there's 3.
Oh, jeez. They're multiplying, I said. They've got a baby now.
There's 4.
Oh, God.
Should I put in a work
How
order
did
or
they get in
something?
here?
There's like 3 in here too.
My baby
It's almost like
comes
an
from me.
infestation going on there.
I want to put in a work order and say we're being overrun with massive. They probably weigh like half a pound each.
So I have a thought on that. So what I think is one potential solution to that is getting people to text with you after the meeting. So people are more inclined to respond to a text message than an email, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like if you don't talk to them for 10 days or a week or 5 days, it is that much harder to like reconnect, right? People don't really like to talk on the phone. God knows I don't. So I'll ask them in the meeting, is it okay to text you? Do you text messaging? Most people will say yes, not everybody. And then I'll say I'm gonna send you a text about something, or I'll text you now or whatever. And I'll text them that night and then have like a brief exchange. And then I'll text them again like in a day or two with whatever update I'm going to give them, or check your email or this and that. And so once you kind of get a text dialogue going, if you get it going early, then it becomes a lot harder for them to just sort of not respond. I mean, they can, but it's a lot harder. People are less inclined to just sort of not respond to a text if you're like, hey, what's up?
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I think, one.
Good idea.
Yeah. So I just ask them in the meeting,
Okay.
do you text, is this the best number? And then I'll like send them like emoticons and stuff, or I'll like text them a picture of, like a selfie. Pictures of Andrew are very popular.
That picture specifically?
That's a very popular one. Okay, so why don't we talk about part of the scripting. Victoria, what part of the scripting do you want to talk about today?
Let me see. I will open
So Victoria, what did you think about, how much of the meeting yesterday do you think was like joking around, rapport building versus actually like dispensing actual information?
We were there for like an hour and 15 minutes probably. Probably like a solid 30 minutes of education.
Yeah.
And the rest was probably more. It wasn't like 30 minutes straight. Like he kind of like break it up a little bit, but Definitely the whole part where you were explaining everything when we were standing in the living room was probably around half an hour or
Right.
45 minutes for that.
Okay. And how do you think she was, like, she was a little weird at the beginning.
Yeah, she
She was kind of like giving me like, sort of like, I'd be like, so, give me a sense of like what your plan is. She's like, well, I already told Phil.
I think she was confused. I think because she expected us to come in and be like, 155, here's your off. Like, and
Yeah, that's
like,
fine. And that's fine. And I was like, so I spent a lot of time telling her about like the process,
Mhm.
right? And like in like excruciating detail.
Yeah. And she
But she
like
liked
almost
it.
to the point.
She
yeah,
liked
she
it.
did. She was a little
Which was
confused about some
disturbing.
things that I was kind of confused how she was confused. But I
Yeah.
think it was just because she was trying to write notes down at the same time.
Yeah, and she
Um,
was like, that's a good example. Like I sort of explained it quickly, and then I re-explained it,
Yeah.
and it took forever. And but she liked it. She wanted to like write it all down. She was interested. Like I was like, so you get like a check at the closing. It'll be the day of the closing, certified check.
Yeah, she was like so confused about what money goes into that check and like the utility withholding and like the tax different, and she was like so confused about all of that
she
for
was
some
very
reason.
confused.
Hmm.
But it's like, so you'll have a check, right? And that's a physical check, which will be in your hand, and you'll leave with it, right, at the closing. Then you go to a bank, right, and then you'll give it to them.
That's
So-
basically what he said.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And she was like, like, so like, that was, I didn't want to talk about numbers with her, so the only thing that was left to talk about was just the process, like what we would do. Like, okay, there's no commissions, this is how much you would normally pay. What does as is mean? Like, I just like babbled on and on and on, right?
Mm.
And like, it seemed like I was going to stop at points, and then I started talking to him, kept talking. I even thought I was going to stop at points. And that was like helpful for her. Like, she clearly liked it. I don't know why, because it was like insufferable. But I think it made her feel comfortable. Then after she sort of knew what the deal was,
Yeah.
then it was much easier to build rapport.
Mhm.
So I don't know. But people, I feel like you have to like. I know we talk about this sort of every week, but I do feel like you have to like explain the shit out of things to people, like in a way that where like if somebody was explaining it, like if I was explaining it to you, you'd be like, "Fucker, like what's your problem? Like why are you talking to me like that?"
Yeah, you always have to assume that they're lower than average intelligence level, I feel like.
Or just know nothing,
Yeah,
And I, like even if they're like, "Oh yeah," they probably don't know.
right.
So I don't know. I think you just sort of like push through it. I mean, sometimes you meet with people who are like obviously understanding and they know what's going on, but I feel like that's not that much. So I would, even if they're sort of telling you what it is, I would like belabor every little point. That even if it's like something that you think is just like so obvious, like so like at the closing you'll go to the title company's office, right, the day of the closing. And the way that works is you'll go and there'll be a chair there and you'll sit down, okay, and you'll meet with the title attorney, right, and you'll have a pen, and so you'll have documents, and they're like, oh, okay, So, anyway.
Dummy it down.
Yeah, so any parts of the script anybody wants to talk about? Victoria, Marple?
I feel
Tara?
like we haven't gone over pricing in depth yet, like we did marketing and as is.
Pricing.
So I feel
Pricing,
like pricing
okay.
is probably a good one.
Okay, let's do pricing. This is for the listing, right? Like in the,
Yes.
like the regular script.
yeah, the script.
Okay, so what is the point of the pricing kind of riff? When do we do that in the meeting?
After comps.
Right, so,
The point is to kind of get them to have a regional mindset about what the price is and how important it is for it to not be overpriced.
right, exactly. Why? And so it's got to be priced right because otherwise,
It just will sit there.
right, and then they're going to be mad. Nobody's going to get paid. Right. So it's hard. Like people have. I mean, this is like one of the toughest things I think to deal with is somebody who's motivated to sell but unreasonable about the price. I know like Mark has had people like that, like some like real lunatics who like have like insane ideas. especially in like this market where the market is good, people are like,
I could get $1 million.
yeah, like you know what properties
Purple
are
line.
going for?
Amazon,
Purple lines.
MGM.
Yeah, exactly. Amazon. Oh my god.
You ever been to Oxon
Be
Hill?
like the Amazon thing. I was like. So like the whole pricing riff is designed to help combat that a little bit, right? So you're telling them like why pricing is so important and how we do pricing, and then we spend a lot of time making sure it's priced right. In fact, we price it sort of right at where it should be priced, we think, not more, because we found that if you do it for more, you end up sort of shooting yourself in the foot, blah, blah, blah. So you're sort of like trying to plant this seed without talking directly to them about their property. This is how we do it, right? But what are some of the things that we can say to people who are like, well, like the Oscar Smiths of the world. So his house is literally covered in rat shit, and he has a possum that lives in the basement, and he wants $800,000 for his house. That is maybe 500.
Well, ARV's probably 800.
Yeah, I mean he's like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars over. Like there's like rats in his house. It's literally covered in rat poop, and there's a possum living in his basement. Okay, and he wants like ARV, and he's like, well, I have a big yard, and don't you know how much houses? You know, it's like.
People say the craziest things about why their house is worth.
Yeah, people would be like, yeah.
I have
but,
a generator.
or like
Cool.
Yeah, but their backyard has a hill. What?
Yeah.
Like, okay. So how do you like get past some of these like everybody has an idea, something that is special about their property that makes it different than every other fucking house on the market, right? Somehow it's like, oh, but there's a swing set that's by a creek, right? So that's going to be, people are going to like that, right? So like, what are some of the things you can do? And some of these people, like Oscar Smith, like I just got into an argument with him, so that was not like a case study on how to deal with it. But he is like, what are some of the things that you can do to try and get people to see the light a little bit? Mark, do you have any thoughts?
Well, I kind of like break down how realtors will come in and run the comps for them. I'll be like, hey, like, so a realtor's going to come in with their sheet of paper. They're going to show you that this house with the same amount of square footage, like I'm even like, sometimes they don't even look at bedroom, bathroom count that much. It's more about the taxed living area. And I mean, lot size, if it's like a huge difference, that might play into it a little bit, but typically what they're looking at is square footage. Mm-hmm. Then I'll bring up HomeSnap and obviously show them the pictures of things that sold recently, and I think that's probably the most effective way to bring down their expectations, because it's like, all right, this one sold you, it was an appointment I was at yesterday where it was a house 2 doors down, sold for $520,000, and she thought that she was going to be getting like closer to $6 million, and it wasn't in good condition. So I mean, I was just like, oh, like this one just sold a few months ago, like let's take a look at it.
Yeah.
Let her swipe through the pictures, and it's like, so when people come in and take a look at that, they're going to base what yours is going to sell for off of that. And it's like, do you think that yours is in better condition or worse condition?
Exactly.
And then it's almost like they kind of realize it for themselves that they're being a little bit ambitious. So by the end of the meeting, she was looking for around $500,000, which even would still be a little bit of a stretch for the condition it was in, but
right.
I mean, it brought her down $100,000 from what she was expecting.
Good.
At the initial point of our meeting. So
yeah, I mean, I think that like we talked about looking at the pictures, that's exactly right. Like, is showing them like sort of comp after comp. Some people just won't even like engage. Like they'll be like, oh, you know, but that, oh, I know that house, that one, whatever. You know, they don't want to hear it. But a lot of people that will work, it's like, so this house has been renovated, or this house is really nice, right? It's also bigger than your house. But kind of hammering home the point that Mark says, right? Like, what is you can ask, what do you think what drives the price of homes more than anything?
Supply and demand.
Yes, but like specific to the neighborhood. Comps. It's like what people are going to look at what other houses around here have sold for. That's what people use to benchmark what they're going to offer. Like, it's hard to argue with that. It's like, if somebody can buy a house at this price that's not covered in rat shit,
right?
I think they're probably inclined to do that. But yes.
Well, I have another idea for like trying to.
Yeah.
could you like show them the tax record? So like if it is one that is really shitty, like this Oscar Smith one where tax record's probably like in the 600s, if anything.
Yeah.
And he's wanting 800, you could show him that, and if he's like, yeah, those are always low, you could say like, trust me, the city wants as much money as they can get, so they're going to put the highest value they could possibly can on this.
Well, he was in that meeting I had with him. He did come down. He was like, "Well, I wouldn't take less than the tax assessed value." I said he was sort of like
Okay.
a little bit kind of realizing it, but like not to the point where it was going to be anything close to
That
what
we could do.
sort of. Yeah, I mean, like the house was like.
Maybe that could work for more for like listing as is or something.
Yeah, I'd say like one of the first
Not
things
cash.
I'll do is I'll show them the assessed value and kind of gauge like what they're thinking based on that. Like if they'd be happy with that, then I'd kind of pursue the cash a little bit more, because then I can kind of work them down from the assessed value.
Yeah, like if you
Whereas-
sold this on
yeah.
the market for the assessed value.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean,
Yeah.
You have
if they
to pay
want
all
more
this.
than that, then it's definitely gonna be more of a listing. So you kind of pursue that more. So
Yeah, I think that's a good strategy. I mean, if you can get them to understand that like comps, like what other houses have sold for, is almost the sort of singular factor that drives what people are willing to pay. Like, if somebody's looking for a house in this neighborhood, they're undoubtedly going to look and see what other houses on this street and in this neighborhood have sold for, right? That's what they're going to use. Like, it's tough to argue with that. Like, it's true, and most people sort of know that. So it's like, if you can kind of hammer that point in and like show them like 5 comps, like, they can talk about Amazon or whatever, but like, that, I think the only thing I know to say in response to shit like that is that's what you're talking about is like speculation, right? You're saying like, what will the value of the house be in 18 months if Amazon comes here and if they're located here, like close to you, etc., right? Like there's if. So maybe that will impact the value of your house, but it ain't going to impact the value of your house right now. Like the market is going to bear what it's going to bear now. Now, if you want to hold on to it and see what happens, that's another situation. That's cool too. But like, just because Amazon might be here or whatever, doesn't mean your house is worth like way more than everybody else's now. I don't know. Mark, do you have any other? What do you say to the Amazon crap?
well, I mean, I tell them, that would be great, but there's no guarantee that the market's going to be where it is right now in the future. Like, I'm sure you're well aware that mortgage rates are increasing, which is going to kind of drop the property values. So, I mean, if it's still a strong market at that point, then it's definitely possible that you get more. But on to play devil's advocate, if the interest rates keep rising, then most likely your property value is going to start going down regardless. So,
I think that's good. I think it's good. I mean, I think you can just tell them that, be like, yeah, that's great. And I think the market has already started to price that in, right?
right.
It's already started to price that in. Now, if you want to play the long game and see where that is in 2 years, I don't know. That maybe that plays out. Maybe you hold it for 2 years, see what happens. But it's definitely started to be priced in anyway. So you just sort of make it like, yeah, that's cool, but like that's not now. That's later, and then see if you can kind of get them back on. You're sort of like giving them a little bit like, yeah, it's already priced in to some degree.
Right.
Anyway, so also on the pricing, I think other than showing comps, is anything else, Mark, that you have found is helpful?
No, I think HomeSnap's probably the best. Like I said, I really like using the tax assessed value just to gauge where their mind's at. That's pretty much it, though.
Right.
We're just asking them questions as like why they're expecting what they want.
Yeah, that's the other thing, right? Asking questions like, where did where are you getting that number from?
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of times people will say something that's like really stupid and vague. They'll be like, well, that's what do you know what homes are going for around here? They're like, yeah, I've looked at the comps. So which comps have you looked at? Or like which houses have sold in that price range? And this one, that one, sold, the one down the block sold for $1 million, right? You're like, oh, did you go in that house? Like, was it covered in rat shit? Oh, it wasn't.
How many opossums did that one have?
Yeah, like how many? Yeah, did they have it? Was there like feral animals in there? No. Okay. What else, Terry? What has worked for you on that?
I definitely agree with the home snap. I'll show them the comps, the same thing with the tax record, and then get out home snap so we can actually see. And I mean, it's the numbers don't lie.
Yeah, they are what they are.
It's
yeah.
like, so I
And-
think for the most part, seeing that, they do start coming around.
Yeah.
I haven't been on too many that have been like too far out. I've, and I explain that pricing is the most important thing, because if you're too high, it's going to sit on the market. And like my goal is for you to get the most money in the quickest amount of time.
Right.
So
It's hard to do that if you're priced too high, because you're going to sit on the market. People are going to come in, you're going to be disturbed, and nobody's going to write a contract. Then you're going to end up lowering it, and then it's like time. So.
Mhm.
Is HomeSnap like the most accurate?
It's
Or-
MLS developed it. It's an
Oh.
MLS product.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, from what I've
That's
seen,
cool.
it's
So it
definitely-
basically
It's
like
awesome.
comes
Most
for
accurate.
you.
It's an incredible. I know the lady that trains on it. I'll see if I can get her in here sometime. She's pretty busy, but it's an incredible app.
Says my house is worth less than I thought.
It'll say estimate.
So the as is value as opposed to the ARV, like Zillow most of the time is.
But how do they know?
So wait, so is it
They're everywhere.
more of like an as is value than like
No,
Zillow is
it's-
always super high?
They do some algorithms of what they've got the data on, so it is a more accurate.
Cool.
Usually lower than Zestimate, yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean the estimate I
far,
feel like
yeah.
is always very high.
That's
for
like
everything.
ARV.
Yeah, but like even high for like when we were buying, we were only
It'll give
looking
you a
at-
range too.
Yeah, we were only looking at renovated houses, and last times it was like 20,000, and like what it really should have been.
Yeah. 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 Tara.
I have a question about HomeSnap. Is that a MRIS product or a Zillow product?
MLS developed
Okay.
it, and then they sold it.
So I've got access to that if I've got my own subscription, right?
You don't even need a subscription. Just go to your app store and download it. If you don't have an MRIS ID, you will go in as a customer. If you have your MLS ID, you go in as a realtor. It's got all the same information in the MLS, confidential information for showings, things like that.
Okay, I do. So it's an app I can download.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Victoria, anything else on the pricing that we can talk about? Do you like how to? Do you want to like go through it with me, or hear me go through it? Hear Muffy go through it?
You could go through it. That sounds
Okay.
You don't want to hear me go through it.
Okay, so the point at so you've talked about comps already, right? And you're like been like telling them, trying to get them to understand what the house is actually worth based on what houses in the neighborhood have sold for, and then go into kind of like when we sell houses, there's two kind of like critical things, right? Pricing is one of them, and then later you'll talk about marketing. But pricing is one of them, and it is. I really can't emphasize how important pricing is, right? Because the worst kind of outcome, like Terry described, is having your house sit on the market and it's overpriced, and then you have to drop the price, and then all of a sudden it's been on the market for 45 days, 60 days, right? And then people are sort of thinking, is there something wrong, blah, 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 right? That's a bad outcome. The other thing is, you want to like drive urgency, so people put in their best offers, and they don't put in their kind of a lowball offer. So if somebody knows that the house is going to sell because it's priced right, their agent's going to know it's going to sell, the open house is going to be full, more people will be there. People are going to recognize that at this price point, there's going to be activity, and it's not going to be on the market for long. So that, of course, is going to drive people's best offer, right? If it's way overpriced, then people are going to feel like, hey, ain't nobody going to buy it at that price, and they feel empowered, emboldened to put in a shitty offer. And that's what you want to try and avoid, sitting on the market and fielding crappy offers, right? So like, Yeah, it's a little bit of reverse psychology. Like a lot of people's sort of knee-jerk reaction is to put it up at a little bit more than they think it's probably worth. They think that's the way to do it, but in fact, it's really the opposite, because otherwise you're not going to drive any urgency. And I think it's like a totally fair point. It's entirely accurate. If you explain it that way, people are going to understand. Like, you want to get people in there like bidding against each other, right? You want a bidding war. Like, it's not going to be like a feeding frenzy if you have it overpriced. You know, so that's kind of how I explain it, and be like, whenever we put a house on the market, we try and price it like just right, maybe a touch low, get as many people in as possible, 1 hour open house, and try and get some bid up action instead of sitting there like sucking our thumbs and hoping somebody will put in a good offer. Yeah. All right. So, anything else for today? No? Alright, so next Tuesday I want to really do like a lot of role play the whole time. Victoria loves that. Mark loves it as well. So does Tara. Tara will be here in person, I hope. So we'll do some role play, and we're going to try and hit on each of the sections and go through it. So please, 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 be ready for that. And maybe if you're lucky, I'll let Muffy be the seller. So that's good.
Nice.
That alone is worth coming in the office for.
Yep, I agree. All right, thank you guys.